So Tesla just had its earnings call and interest rates are pretty high, which means people can't afford cars. All right, sorry, I had to do it. The earnings call is over, and we're going to talk about some of the things I found exciting on there, one of which was not Elon Musk's demeanor, but I got to say, this is why I like him. This is why I appreciate him, because he doesn't hide anything. He doesn't lie. He doesn't sugarcoat things. If he's happy and excited, you're going to know it. If he's not feeling good, you're also going to know it. And that was kind of expressed on the call today. But it was not all bad news. We did get some good and exciting news, especially about Cybertruck, which is what I was mainly looking for that we're going to talk about. We'll also talk about some FSD stuff, some exciting stuff. Radar was mentioned, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then we'll go over some of the other things that I thought stuck out and were important. But let's get right to Cybertruck. The Cybertruck delivery event is November 30th. It's confirmed. I will be there. I did use referral credits. Thank you so much to people like you watching these videos. I now have an amazing opportunity to go check out the Cybertruck, and I will be working hard while I'm there. And if you are not attending, I will do my best to get everything to you as fast and efficiently and thoroughly as I can, so you can kind of get all the information. And speaking of that, you can use my newest full self-driving patron, Robin's referral code in the link down below if you want to save $250 on a Tesla of your own. Thank you so much to Robin for supporting this channel. You can find their referral link down in the description, so definitely check that out. So yes, finally, delivery event confirmed. Tesla said the first deliveries will happen November 30th, 2023. And a lot of people have said to me, what the heck, how can they do these deliveries? We don't know the specs, we don't know the price. Who the heck is gonna accept delivery of something when they know nothing about it? Well, Tesla's done this plenty of times in the past, and employees will be taking those first deliveries. There will probably be about 25 or so. That's what happened with the Model 3. Model Y, we don't know exactly, but probably somewhere around there. And if you look back to the Texas-made Model Y, the Cyber Rodeo, they delivered the first Model Ys there to employees. And what was really strange, and I'm really hoping does not happen this time, is they drove that Model Y up on stage. They're like, hey, this is a Texas-built Model Y. There it goes. We're delivering it. And then we never heard anything again for months. We didn't know the price. We didn't know the range. We didn't know if it was dual motor. We knew nothing. We didn't know what batteries were in it. There was a lot of speculation and rumors and leaks, but there was no official announcement by Tesla, even post-delivery event. Now, Tesla never just sticks to one thing, and they don't really have a playbook they follow. They just do, whatever they think is best in the moment, which is awesome. I think that's a huge, great aspect of this company. Sometimes it's negative, but for the most part, I think it's a great thing. And what did we see with the last new launch, the new Model 3? Well, they had a bunch of huge content creators out to cover that car. And those content creators were able to record videos, edit videos, and have time to get those uploaded to the internet. So their content simultaneously came out at the same time that Tesla revealed the new Model 3. So we could have a similar thing going on. If anyone at Tesla's watching this and knows somebody, please, I would love to attend that if that's something happening with Cybertruck. But anyway, at this delivery event, I'm kind of hoping it's going to be a combo of Tesla doing the delivery event and releasing all the specs, telling us all about Cybertruck, everything we don't know yet, the range, the price, and all of that kind of stuff. So getting into the price, Elon Musk did say tamper expectations. Elon Musk did say it's going to be between 12 and 18 months before there is a significant positive cash flow contribution coming from Cybertruck. So that's unfortunate. It means the ramp's going to be kind of slow, and it's not going to be the most efficient vehicle building going on, at least in the beginning. Elon also mentioned it's an enormous challenge ramping Cybertruck up to volume production and making it cash flow positive at a price people can afford. That's what he said, and I have been kind of dreading Cybertruck price for the longest time. There's a lot of people out there like, oh, it's going to be 60K or 70K, and the 4680s are super efficient, and the stainless steel, and there's no paint, that saves a lot of money. But they have to, make money on these vehicles. It's a totally new product, as Elon was saying on the call. It's not like they're just taking another car and kind of, changing a few things and releasing it. This is a totally new beast, something no one has ever done before, and Tesla has to figure things out as they go along, as they did with the Model 3 ramp and the Model X ramp and, their previous cars that they had trouble with. Now, was this the best decision? Maybe not short term. I mean, imagine if Tesla just released like a normal looking pickup truck with maybe a little bit of Tesla flair and improvements. That thing would have sold like crazy also, maybe even better than the Cybertruck initially. I mean, I doubt it, but maybe. And now they're making this weird thing, and it's, short-term costing them. Long-term, I don't think it'll matter. And personally, since I'm planning on taking delivery of a Cybertruck, I am much happier if I had the choice between the Cybertruck we have today and a normal kind of pickup that has paint and all the traditional stuff because of the way I live, and I don't need to get into it. But for me personally, I'd rather have the Cybertruck style of toughness rather than, a paint-covered, more flimsy, more susceptible to damage vehicle. So Elon did also mention there's over 1 million reservations for the Cybertruck. Now, online estimates have this number actually at 2 million, but I would just go with what Elon is saying. I mean, obviously Tesla knows. Maybe they're taking into account that a lot of people have, more than one reservation. I personally have 2 reserved. I have dual and tri-motor because I didn't know exactly what I would want to pay and what the price would be, what I could afford. And I don't plan to take delivery of 2 Cybertrucks. So yeah, I have 2 reservations, but I'm only going to pick up one of them. So maybe, Tesla's taking that into consideration, seeing, I mean, there's some people who have 20, 30 reservations, and Tesla's like, all right, you're not going to take delivery of 30 of these things. We'll see what happens. So that's probably closer to the amount they actually expect people to want to buy. Because for anyone that doesn't know, the reservation was just a refundable $100. So if I didn't want my 2 Cybertrucks, I could just cancel right now, get my 100 back, and then, I'm out of line, which would be silly. The Cybertruck 4680 cells have 10% more energy, and all lines in Texas are going to Cybertruck, is what was said on the earnings call, which is awesome. So the Model Y has its less efficient cells, and as we know, Tesla is not currently offering that Model Y from Texas with the 4680s. So everything at Texas right now is going full tilt to Cybertruck. And then kind of related, I thought it was weird. Somebody asked about Highland, the new Model 3, on the call and said, hey, you released Highland over there. When's it coming to the US? Blah, blah, blah. And the response, after talking about Cybertruck for a while, the response was, yeah, we don't talk about new vehicle timing and release on earnings calls. And I'm like, weren't we just talking about Cybertruck? Like, what a weird thing. What? Everyone knows it exists. Why don't you just say oh, we expect it to come, beginning of next year or whatever they expect, or something. I don't know, give a late estimate and they'll be like, oh, actually, hey, we're here earlier than we thought. So very strange. I don't know what is going on with that. What a weird way that Tesla's doing that with the new Model 3. With that said, you can get some really good Model 3 deals. So if you don't care that much about it being a refresh, I mean, go for it. I would say go for it. It seems like Model 3s are a great deal right now. But if you want the latest thing, then you don't want to buy that. All right, so let's move into some FSD stuff because there was some interesting things said on the call. We're kind of in a lull right now with Tesla's full self-driving beta. We're getting little minor updates here and there. And for the most part, to be honest, my car is working really well. It's doing a good job, although it still has some mistakes it makes, of course. But on the whole, I have a good time using it daily. So Elon did say there's significant progress on version 12. That doesn't really mean much to me. And then he said the Tesla AI team is the best at real-world AI in the whole world. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, it seems like it. And then somebody asked about the robotaxi timeline. And Elon said, it drives me all around Austin with no interventions. So whatever that means. I mean, I don't want to go too much, of a rant on this and be too negative, but we've heard him say this before on previous older versions, like over the past couple of years where, oh yeah, it works great for me. I barely do anything. And then, to be fair, even for me, beta can make it long stretches of road where I do nothing. At the same time, did you read or listen to the Elon Musk book by Walter Isaacson? I listened to the whole thing, and that gave me less confidence in FSD, to be totally honest. Not to get too into it, but mostly because, Elon pushes his teams, and that's great. That's why we have the crazy things from SpaceX and Tesla and Neuralink and all this that we have today. But sometimes it leads to things being catered in a way to make Elon a little happier, is what it sounded like. And so there was an example in the book where his Elon's car on FSD or autopilot or whatever on the highway would, drift because the painted lines were gone. And the team was trying to fix it, and they basically couldn't get it to work. And long story short, they had the county or whatever repaint the lines, and then it worked. And then Elon was happy. So could the team be, doing things specifically to make FSD work well for Elon in Austin, Texas? Yes, they could. Now, with version 12, if it's working the way Elon says, and it's just neural nets and they're not hard coding anything, that's much less likely. So maybe that's not happening. And maybe I'm just, being a negative Nancy, but I'm just throwing all that out there. This is the history we have on FSD so far. We have Elon hyping it a lot, and then the updates do bring improvements, but maybe they're not as good as we hoped. So take it all with a grain of salt, I guess, is pretty much what I'm saying. Another really good question somebody asked, why was the price of FSD dropped? Especially when Tesla and Elon said, as FSD gets better, the price is going up. And they kind of did that. It was 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, all the way up to 15. And then they dropped it back down to 12,000, which, to be totally honest with you, I was shocked by it. I never thought we were going to see an FSD price drop. I figured they had stopped the raises for a while, but, whatever. And Elon said, we wanted to make it more affordable. Which, that's really nice, but I think it's because the take rate was probably not that great. Again, just a guess. I mean, we know the take rate isn't that great. It's hard to suggest at 15,000. It's hard to suggest at 12,000 even, especially with interest rates the way they are if you're not paying cash for it. And then even if you are, do you really want to drop $12,000 when you could just pay $200 a month? it's a difficult decision. I want to make a whole video about that because I kind of do that once a year or so where I, give my opinion on it. I think we're getting to a point where it's worth paying for, but it's still, hard to argue. And then Elon did say the current price is a temporary low. So, he thinks it's going to go back up and whatever. So whatever that means, I found it was a good question. I just found the response interesting. Somebody also mentioned full self-driving legal liability. And I have long said, this is when FSD is done. It'll always be improved and always get software updates. But done means Tesla takes liability for your car. They say, hey, turn FSD on. And while that's on, it's our responsibility because we know it's so good. It only crashes once every billion miles that it is worth it financially for us, for you to pay us and use FSD, whereas we cover any accidents. If they're not taking liability, it's not done because they don't think it's good enough and they'd rather you be liable if you mess up your car. So that's kind of been a huge flag for me. People are like, oh, when is it done? When are you going to be able to sleep in the car or text while it's driving? As soon as Tesla, takes liability. Now this was asked in relation to the Mercedes Level 3 thing, and people get, people see the headlines and the mainstream media is so stupid about all this stuff because they're, oh, Mercedes beats Tesla, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Mercedes system only goes up to 40 miles per hour. It needs a lead car. It only works on like a couple of roads in the US or like a very small pre-mapped section. It doesn't work in the rain. There's so many stipulations for you to be able to turn it on. Now, if you have all of those things, it sounds great. I would love to try it out. I'm sure it's very nice, but it's not like FSD is for me, where I literally can turn it on in my driveway, and I've had it drive me all the way to work with me doing almost nothing or kind of nothing or just a couple of things here and there. It's just simply not possible. But in those exact situations, if you were to have the Mercedes next to the Tesla, it seems the Mercedes is a bit more capable, below 40 miles per hour with a lead car, if it's not raining, et cetera, et cetera. Now, international FSD, this sounded like bad news to me. There was a lot of hope for a while that FSD was going to come to Europe and these other places in Australia, especially, and maybe China. And people are clamoring for it. And Elon had responded in the past. He's like, yeah, we're working on it. It's regulators. And then there was some, data that in Europe, they were kind of doing some regulation-y stuff to make it come through. And everyone was kind of like, oh, beginning of 2024, it looks like it's going to be possible. Not that it's guaranteed, but we're getting there in terms of all the paperwork being ready and Tesla applying and whatever. Well, somebody asked when's it, coming internationally? And Elon said, the more places we try to make FSD work, the harder it is. That's why it's just North America. And he, mentioned how in most parts of the world, you need approval before you deploy something like that. In the US, you can, deploy it first. It wasn't a very good answer to me. It didn't sound very good. So if you're international, I think you're just still on the waiting list for a long time. I mean, it sucks. And, as good as FSD is here, it still makes enough mistakes. And I guess if they try to port that, whatever system they have over to Europe, it's just going to be not good enough to release to the public. That's what it sounds like. Now, again, we can jump on version 12 and say, well, if it's neural net and all they got to do is feed the video in and then it's good, that would be a lot faster, especially as they ramp up, Dojo and get all these NVIDIA chips in there. Then maybe it'll come a lot faster. But as of now, doesn't sound like it's coming anytime soon. Sorry. And then my last point on FSD, radar. So radar, we know, was removed in 2021 from all the cars, blah, blah, blah. My car doesn't have radar in it. My wife's car doesn't have radar in it. My old Tesla had radar in it. And then the new refresh S and X started to have radar in the bumper. And everyone's like, whoa, what the heck is going on? But it didn't seem like it was actually being used for anything. Long story short, it was actually also in Walter Isaacson's book where there was a big argument, within Tesla where people were like, we want radar. And Elon's like, you don't need radar. Humans don't have radar. Like, screw that. And they basically compromised to say, all right, let's just put this special radar. So it's a Tesla-designed high-resolution radar in the S and X because they're high-margin vehicles. They don't make a ton of them. Put that in there, and we'll collect the data, and we'll see. So it was mentioned on the earnings call. One of the institutional investors was asking. There was some reports or something on Model Y having radar in China. I didn't hear that, but and Elon specifically said we have not included radar in the Model Y. And then he went on and added all this. He said we have Tesla designed radar in S and X as an experiment. It's a high resolution radar that has potential to be useful, but the jury is out on whether that is in fact the case. So they have this radar. Now, this is confusing because I was talking about this on X and a lot of people were like, what the heck does this mean? Your car, if you have an S or X, is not using the radar to make any decisions or do anything, but it is collecting data and sending that data back to Tesla, and they can they're figuring out, like, do we need this? Basically, is it worth the cost? Does it make FSD safer, or does it make it worse? So the low resolution radar was making FSD worse. The high resolution radar maybe will make it better. I don't know. I would think so from I watched a lot of videos and kind of read a lot about it. It seems like it would be great. But, you know, I don't actually work on that stuff, so I don't know for sure. And then a few additional things I found pretty interesting on this call. Despite factory shutdowns, the cost per vehicle actually still decreased. So they had shut down factories in China to retool for the new Model 3, and then they actually made a bunch of upgrades to the Model Y in China also, which are probably coming here. And then they stopped making, you know, the Model Y in Texas, and they're ramping up Cybertruck. Their cost per vehicle actually went down. So that's really good for the year. And, you know, long-term and even medium-term is great news for Tesla in terms of, you know, their profit. Elon is extremely worried about the high interest rates. They do suck. If you know, I mean, if you're trying to get a loan for a house or a car, you're like, what the heck? Like, you know, 50 grand took me this far before. Now it doesn't take me anywhere, right? Or whatever example you want to give. It's crazy. I mean, the interest rate thing is just ridiculous right now. And Elon talked a lot about that. And he seems very scared of it. And he's like, please stop raising interest rates. Jerome Powell just seems like bent on destroying the average consumer. He wants everyone to lose their jobs. That's what it seems like. He just keeps cranking those interest rates until unemployment shoots through the roof. So that is affecting the Mexico factory. He said they're doing it, but they're kind of just hanging out, seeing what's going on, especially since they have so much room at Texas. He said they're barely using any of that space. They're going to build that out. Once they kind of see what's going on with interest rates or things calm down or whatever, then they're going to, you know, go harder into the Mexico factory. He talked about advertising. He said, you know, this is kind of related. We're advertising. He said we are, which they are a little bit. You see it here and there online if you look for it. But telling people about a car that's great, but they can't afford isn't helpful, which I totally agree with him on. A lot of people, especially if you already own a Tesla, I noticed on X, it's just this huge bubble where everyone's like, oh, just get a Tesla, just get a Tesla. You know, I was talking about, I don't want to get into it, but somebody I know who needed a new car because their gas car broke. And everyone's like, oh, just get a Model 3. I'm like, you realize that's still like a $40,000 car. That's expensive. Yes, it's less than the new average vehicle. But do you know how many people don't make $40,000, $50,000 a year or more than that? Can't take advantage of the tax credits, can't blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people, I think, just kind of forget. There's a huge amount of people, especially worldwide, but just in the US, that just simply can't afford a $40,000 car or a $35,000 used car. Or they're like, oh, if you know, this Model 3 has 100,000 miles on it and it's only 28,000. Okay, great. So now they get this old Model 3 that is going to lose battery warranty soon, or maybe already has if it's, you know, a short range. Now they have this gigantic liability because, okay, they could afford $28,000 loan, but then the battery dies, you know, in 2 years. Probably not, but you just never know. You got to think about all those things. So I'm glad, I'm really happy that Elon is so into that and focused on that because it's an important aspect of all this. And then somebody asked about Optimus. Is it going to be on the Gigafactory floor next year? And they just said no comment. So they said last year it could barely walk. Right now it can do yoga. Maybe in a couple of years it can do ballet or something like that. And then the low cost, high volume vehicle, they said is easier than Cybertruck. So they were more excited about that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know. You will see me in the next video. And then a few additional notes on things that I just found really interesting to fight. And then a few additional notes on just some things I found really interesting from this call. Despite